Welcome to the Jeremiah Show, Grown Man Speaking. Allow yourself to listen with intention.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Jeremiah Show, where it's always about getting real and honest. Today, we're diving into a topic that I think most of us have dealt with at some point or another: fake friends and colleagues. I'm really excited to have Leora Dale with us to share her insights. Leora, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Jeremiah. It's a pleasure to be here and discuss such an important topic. Dealing with fake friends and colleagues is something many people struggle with, yet it's often not openly talked about enough.
Absolutely. And I think the first thing people wonder is, how do you even identify a fake friend or colleague? They don't exactly wear a badge, you know?
Right, Jeremiah. Identifying them can be subtle. A lot of it comes down to noticing patterns in behavior. For instance, a friend might only reach out when they need something from you, or a colleague might take credit for your work without acknowledging your contribution. It's those small red flags that can build up over time.
But how can we address these situations without escalating things or burning bridges? Let's say someone notices these red flags. What's their next step if they want to handle the situation ethically?
That's a great question. Handling this ethically involves clear communication. You've got to address these behaviors directly but calmly. For instance, if a colleague is overstepping, you might have a one-on-one discussion, expressing how you've noticed certain behaviors and how they're affecting you. It's all about expressing your boundaries without judgment or blame.
I see. So proactive communication plays a significant role. Have you ever had a personal experience with this, where you've had to confront someone on their behavior? I think real-life examples can really help listeners here.
Oh, absolutely. In my early career, I was enthusiastic about collaborating and often went out of my way to help a colleague who later turned out to be taking advantage of my goodwill. They consistently took credit for our combined efforts in team meetings without acknowledging my contributions. I noticed the pattern and initially felt frustrated, questioning if I was overthinking things. Eventually, I decided to have a candid discussion during which I was careful to focus on specific behaviors rather than pointing fingers. Surprisingly, it led to better collaboration and mutual respect.
That must have been a tough but rewarding conversation, I'm sure. It's interesting how sometimes these discussions can actually salvage relationships, turning a negative into a positive.
True, Jeremiah. It's often difficult to start those conversations, but when approached constructively, they can yield unexpected benefits. However, if the behavior doesn't change, that's when you might reconsider the relationship, remaining respectful yet firm about your boundaries.
Thinking about maintaining boundaries, it sounds like that's essential. But what if the person still refuses to respect them? Do you have any strategies to offer in such cases, where a friend or colleague just doesn't take the hint?
Maintaining boundaries can be challenging when they're continuously tested. If direct communication hasn't worked, it may be time to limit your interactions with them. In a work setting, for example, that could mean reducing the extent to which you share your work or limit your collaborations. In personal relationships, sometimes distancing yourself can signal your discomfort more effectively than words can.
So essentially, once you've tried discussing the issues directly and things haven't changed, it's fair to adjust how much energy and time you're willing to invest in that relationship.
Precisely, Jeremiah. And remember, choosing to step back isn't about being unkind. It's about protecting your well-being and honoring your own needs. Everyone deserves to be surrounded by people who truly respect and value them.
Let's switch gears a bit. There's this fine balance in the workplace, especially when power dynamics are involved. How should one tackle situations where the fake colleague is someone senior?
Navigating power dynamics requires tact. Again, direct communication is crucial, but the way you approach it can differ. Perhaps instead of a direct confrontation, engaging in open solutions-focused dialogue can help. You might bring up ideas collaboratively, framing them in a way that emphasizes team success rather than individual critique.
So it's like proposing changes that would benefit everyone without directly pointing out behaviors. Can you think of a scenario when this would be particularly useful?
Absolutely. Suppose there's a senior colleague who often sidetracks meetings with unrelated points, causing everyone to lose focus. You might suggest a new meeting structure that includes specific time for individual input, reminding everyone, including yourself, of the agreed agenda. Framing changes as team-oriented tends to bring people on board without singling anyone out.
That makes a lot of sense. Shifting the perspective so that everyone has to engage with the new norms without feeling targeted. Do you think it's worthwhile to keep engaging with the relationships that show these patterns of fake behavior, assuming they can be improved, or should one always be prepared to just move on?
I believe each situation is unique, and it calls for discernment. Some people do change and grow when given the chance. If there's evidence of effort from the other side, it might be worthwhile to invest in the relationship. However, if it's consistently one-sided, knowing when to move on is just as important. It all boils down to personal judgment and the willingness of the other party to evolve.
Understanding that both parties have to bring something to the table for any dynamic to work, be it friends or colleagues. Then, what about moving past the emotional burden or frustration these relationships might cause? Any advice there?
Self-care is critical here. Venting to a friend or therapist can provide relief and clarity. Engaging in activities that boost your mood can make a huge difference. Moreover, reflecting on what you've learned from these experiences, how you'd want to shape your future relationships, can be empowering. Embracing the positive aspects of growth can transform what feels like a setback into an opportunity.
Reflection and making peace with the process can indeed be powerful tools. What if listeners want concrete ways to evaluate whether their friendships or professional relationships are genuine? Are there signs or tests, so to speak?
Certainly. Take note of reciprocity. Do they check in on you? Do they make time for you beyond their convenience or need? Genuine relationships often involve mutual effort, where both parties are invested in each other's well-being. Also, situations that test loyalty can be revealing. Pay attention to how they speak about others or behave in challenging situations. That can offer insights into their character.
So true. And I suppose, to round this off, we should acknowledge that dealing with all this isn't easy, especially if you've been burned before. Any final thoughts for our listeners, Leora, especially those who find themselves struggling?
I'd say, be patient with yourself and recognize the strength in confronting these situations. Appreciating your own worth and creating circles that reflect that is key. It's far better to have a few sincere connections than numerous superficial ones. Trust your instincts and remain optimistic about finding genuine bonds.
Family, if you've been rocking with the Jeremiah Show, Grown Man Speaking, then you already know this podcast is about real talk, real growth, and real men becoming better every day. But this movement only grows when we grow it together. So if you value the game, the honesty, and the wisdom we drop here, support the show by grabbing the paperback, the ebook, or the audiobook. Every purchase helps this platform stay independent, stay authentic, and stay speaking to the men who need it most. Hit the link, get your copy, and keep the conversation going. Grown Man Speaking. Listen with intention.
Wise words, indeed. Thanks so much for sharing your insights, Leora. It's been a fantastic discussion. And to our listeners, I hope you found this helpfully insightful. Remember, we'll be back with more on the next episode of The Jeremiah Show. Until then, stay true to yourselves and take care.
Thank you for tapping in to the Jeremiah Show, Grown Man Speaking. Until next time, move with purpose and listen with intention.